Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind and Reflect, where we believe in the universal truth that there's no such thing as coincidences or mistakes. And we're here to share our life stories on that with you. My name is Deb Miller. I am here with my trusty co-chairs, Sue and Kristen. And we're doing things a little differently today because we have 3 guests on with us today. And in order to kind of focus on why they're here, we're going to jump right into the introductions. Let me just start by saying that the 3 women you're about to meet, Susan and I went to high school with, and we've known them for many, many years, but have not been in touch for many, many years. And my partner's sister was good friends with them, and she reached out to me and she said, my friends wrote this book, and I think that it would be really interesting to have them on your podcast, and it's all about menopause. And I was like, I've been going through it. And so I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is something that I should look into. And so the book is called The Girlfriend's Guide to Menopause: What to Expect When You're Expecting Menopause. And the authors of this book are here with us today: Jean Mix, Kimberly Zinni Bryan, and Michelle Page. And I just got to tell you that this book is incredible for so many reasons. One of them is because menopause, as a lot of women know, we all go through it, whether we go through it early in life because we had a hysterectomy, or we go through it during, our 50s or 60s or whatever. But to me, it was so shocking, the things that were happening to me, and I did not know why. Especially with regards to my mental health. So when I'm reading this book and I'm like, every page has a highlight in it, like, oh my God, yes, oh my God. And then I read this part that says, we don't know what we don't know. And it's like, exactly. And why don't we know this? It is killing me. So I'm going to start by just kind of touching base with Kim. And I want you to give us a brief description of how this all came to be. Okay. What I know you all met and hadn't seen each other for a while, and you had a lot going on. And so tell us briefly how this book came to be.
Sure. Thanks for having us, first off. And also want to mention, we are not doctors. Therefore, everything in this book is cultivated through all of our experiences meeting with women, which is how this book came together. We were out to dinner with a group of girls, also from Avon, and somebody had a hot flash.
Ugh.
And, and here we are, and nobody's talking about it, right? So, somebody has this hot flash and it's, what's going on, cools down and whatnot. And the floodgates opened, started talking about menopause. And it was, somebody should write a book about this, I think is what Jean said. And next thing you know, a couple days later, Jean, Michelle, and I connected and said, let's be the ones to write that book. So then over a course of a couple years, we got together girlfriends from all over the country, really. We had in-person meetings, we had Zoom calls, we did, just all sorts of investigative research just to find out not only what was out there medically, but again, we're not doctors, but what was everyone doing to hack the system, so to speak? So this way, we don't want to offer up and everybody's taking a pill for everything. What can you do to, combat these symptoms? So that was kind of, getting together, and then we just took all that information and wrote these stories
Yeah.
and, just kind of evolved from there. Did I?
It's wonderful. I love how it's such an interactive book. So you have you give the information, you give stories, which I relate to. I like to hear other people's personal stories. And then you give like a workbook style, like, okay, what are you going to talk to your doctor about? How are you feeling about this? Blah, 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 blah. And this kind of thing works very well for me because that's how I learn the best.
Hmm. Well, one of the
But
things, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
no,
mean
no,
to.
go ahead.
Well, one of the things is, we all have this memory fog, right? And we really
Hmm.
forget everything. So
And
Sue's eyes.
well, I am constantly writing myself emails so I don't
Right?
forget. So when I log onto my work computer, I've added to my to-do list so I don't forget. It's crazy.
I
Ex-
couldn't even remember the word co-host when I started this. It was like
Those
Mike,
word drops. Yeah,
hello,
Word
whomever you
drops.
are.
That's me. I'm a
That's
word dropper.
it. So, but
totally.
so the
Yeah.
workbook was inspired by that. Was you've just read
Hmm.
something, we're talking about those symptoms, write it down.
Yeah.
Talk to your
Yeah.
partner, take it to the doctor, but there, you can write
Hmm.
it right there before you forget it, because if you turn the page, you'll probably forget
Yeah,
it.
for sure. I just it's wonderful. But I will tell you, I was really angry when I was reading this. Really angry. Angry at you guys uncovered so many things that were not fair. Like that we all were suffering. I can't remember which one of you guys mentioned it, but you said one of the symptoms of menopause can be itchy skin,
Mm.
itching. And I
Yeah.
had literally been waking up in the middle of the night, scratching my skin. And I'm like, do I have like bugs? Like, what is happening? And it was a symptom of menopause. And
Mhm.
all of the things that our bodies go through, and the it doesn't have to be that difficult. It can be literally like, okay, you're about to enter menopause, and we find that out through blood work. And the doctor can say, these are some of the things you're going to experience, and this is what I want you to watch out for. For me, it was the weight gain and it was the mental health decline. Like my mental health, I struggle with mental health issues, and it just, it was just awful. And if I only knew ahead of time that I needed to be aware that these things could be coming my way, I would have been so much more proactive. I would not have gone off of my antidepressants when I
Yeah.
was in
In
menopause.
the middle of
I
menopause.
had no
Mhm.
idea. And now I'm
Mhm.
paying the price for it big time. So, Jean, what were some of the things that were most shocking to you when you were putting this book together?
Well, one of the things that was most shocking when we did the research was to find out that some doctors were better than others. And the lack of training that a majority of the kind of established doctors that were out there currently had in medical school. Menopause was basically an elective.
Yeah.
That shocked me
Mm.
because all the doctors learn about how to birth a baby. Like even if you're not in an OBGYN situation, everybody learns how to deliver a baby, but they don't learn about menopause. And 50% of the population are women, over 50% of the population are women. And every woman, if they reach a certain age, is going to experience this in some way.
Mhm.
So, why was it completely ignored? And the reason that and your experience is so similar to mine because I thought I was dying. I thought I was like I had cancer. I thought there was something really wrong with me. Michelle's
Mhm.
laughing at me because she knows the story. I thought because my periods were irregular, my hair was falling out. I was like, do I must have some type of serious cancer or something. So I was getting all these tests and no one ever said, oh, could this possibly be menopause? And
Mhm.
so that kind of became our mantra. And like even Michelle, she'll probably talk about this too, is like that was her mantra. It was anytime any new symptoms came up, we'd be like, okay, could this be menopause? And you start researching it. And so that was the most shocking thing was that there's just this whole generation of women that it wasn't talked about because amongst women, because then you're admitting like you're old. And the doctors were ill-informed. Yeah, Susan. Yeah, I
Sue
get
doesn't
it.
want to
My
hear that.
problem.
Yeah,
That's my problem. I'm like, I cannot be
yeah,
this old. I can't be
yeah,
going through this. But go
yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's so true,
Problem.
Susan. And the thing is like we don't say that like, going through puberty is a bad thing, like that you're, it's just like a snapshot in time of what your hormones are going to go through over, this certain time period. And I mean, with people like centenarians, like being the fastest growing population, I mean, is really like your 50s or 60s, is that really being old? I don't know, 40s,
No, it's
And
not.
Nope.
I'm
it's
here to tell you, at 58, it's not.
it's not,
I'm
it's just the
refusing to
beginning.
feel old
Last.
yes.
Right, right. So
Um,
that's what surprised us, and that's what motivated us too, is that
Mm.
we were just like, there's just not a lot of information out there. And the information that we also found, because we were research, we went to Barnes and Noble, and we just like bought every book. We're like, what are they saying, and how are they saying it? And a lot of the stuff is very dry. It's very
Mhm.
Medical.
medical, and it's not easy to read. And we were like, well, when we sit around, the three of us would sit around and talk. We're like, that's how I feel like women, we have that power of learning best from each other's stories. And
Yeah,
that's,
Relatable. Yeah.
yeah.
totally agree.
and
Yes.
I find too, when you look up everything, all it says is hot flashes, night sweats, and maybe you don't sleep as well. I mean,
Mhm.
those are the three.
So
And
much.
I'm like,
It's so much.
so anybody who doesn't have a hot flash or have a night sweat doesn't even think about it.
Mhm.
Michelle, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Jean was saying in terms of the medical community really not being trained on this topic. A lot of that was influenced by the Women's Health Initiative that came out like 20 years ago that studied the wrong type of estrogen. I shouldn't say the wrong, it was what was available at the time. And the population that they studied was not really menopausal, premenopausal women, and they were looking at older women. And so a lot of their endpoints that they were looking at were wrong. And now you can actually find a lot of other research studies that went back and looked at that data and said that study was totally wrong, and the medical community doesn't realize it, and they're still latching on to that menopause is a thing and women just need to have to suffer through it because the hormones that can help alleviate many of the symptoms, they're not what they were. So I just wanted to add that to what Jean was saying in terms of the surprise of the medical community not really being aware of the topic, but also in their normal training they probably learned about this Women's Health Initiative that we now know was incorrect in their overall findings and research.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for adding that. I'm going to hand this over to Kristen for her 2 questions. So what do you got there, Longmore?
All right. First of all, thank you, ladies, for joining us. And I'm just going to say, I said before we started this podcast, I'm here representing Simsbury High School. I'm the lone Simsbury High School graduate, so neighboring
We
town.
still let her dial in, but that's a whole thing.
Separate area code.
Anyway, love you all. This is great. And like Deb, I just really thoroughly enjoyed this book. I laughed my ass off. I was shocked and surprised at some of the things you guys have already talked about, the elective, the itchy skin stuff. Crazy. Like, I was like, oh my gosh. So I was pretty lucky with perimenopause, menopause. Also, too, I might add, I had the gift of a coworker who's about 12 years older than me when I was going through perimenopause. So she was an asset to me. She could tell me, this is what this is what that is, this is what's going to happen next, stand by. But I was pretty much done by 49. Like, I was an early bird. Didn't really suffer that much. But then somewhere in my 50s, my early 50s, obviously, I started those symptoms that Deb was talking, the itchy skin. All of a sudden, my anxiety, I'd never been an anxious person. I was like, you know, stressing out about the silliest stuff, like just really like all of a sudden I was so nervous and anxious. Um, and then fast forward a little bit, I still have, you guys know I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I have a handful of women friends that again are anywhere 5 to 10 years older than me. So I'm going to pick Jean. So this question, these ladies, Jean, freaked me the hell out when they started talking about sexual pain. So I'm going to get into this. Like,
Okay.
freaked me out. So when I was 52, I ended a 12-year relationship. I'd always had a wicked high libido. So I've been single now for 3.5 years. I've had very limited sexual experiences.
Okay.
These ladies freaked me out so much that I went on like I don't know what to call it, but it's like a estrogen cream. Okay.
Yeah.
Strictly for sex, because I was petrified that something awful was going to happen. Now, turns out in talking to my gal friends on this call here, they're like, don't worry about that. We've never experienced that. That's not an issue, blah, 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 blah. So talk to me a little bit about, like, as a single woman who might be single when she goes through menopause, and then all of a sudden she meets someone and she has like this horrible pain, whatever. The pain was what scared me to no end. So what did you guys, like, if you don't mind sharing your experience with that, or talk a little bit about what you learned for our audience, for me, like how to combat that, especially if you're married, like.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely there is, when we were going through looking at the book and researching, and even, some of our own personal experiences, having, those sexual side effects of menopause, could be, dryness and, lack of, needing more lube, or, that kind of thing. And we did find experts out there that help with, those situations. And Kim, I think that was your topic when we were writing the book. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
Lube is your friend.
Yeah.
Lube is your friend.
It's really what it comes down to. There is the estradiol.
That's what it was.
Yeah, the estradiol is something you can get prescribed from your gynecologist. It is an estrogen, cream that you can use, and it's highly recommended. There's some great research on that. But overall, everything changes sexually. I mean, you've got to look at sex in a whole different way where, and unfortunately the guys are still like, oh yeah, let's just do it, and they're ready to go, but we're not anymore. And so our whole approach towards sex is like, it becomes more mind, it becomes more, you need some working up to it, and things like that. And so, but it's communication with your partner. And that's why we even wrote a chapter on that, specifically about what do I wish my partner knew? What do I want to share with my partner? I can't tell you how many times we had men come up to our tables as we're selling these books, and they want to help their partner. They want to know more. How do I help her through this? And, communication, and again, lube.
Yeah.
But lube is our friend.
Communication and lube.
Communication and lube. And I said this when we had a clinician on last week, Trisha Porter, for our male audience that listens, although limited as it may be, I think it's wicked important that they listen to learn about this, because they may not know either, like, just because this is kind of a new movement, so to speak. So, okay. So Michelle, I have a question for you. This was something interesting that happened to me that I didn't hear a lot of people talking about. I heard people talking about hot flashes, sexual pain, anxiety, brain fog, but I all of a sudden, again, in not in perimenopause, but well, postmenopause, I started experiencing digestive issues. And I was like, this is really awkward. Like, I don't know if I'm lactose intolerant. I don't know if I'm, allergic to something. I don't know what the heck is going on. So, and I did this little experiment just over the last few days, and I'm going to tell you all. So I am on HRT, hormone replacement therapy, which is a transdermal cream that I put on every day. And we were talking to Trisha the other day about how, like, when I was on the pill, I experienced, as a young woman, some side effects like moodiness, bloating, weight gain. So I was like, you know what? I've been feeling a little moody and a little bloated lately on this cream. Well, I didn't know whether it was a cream. I'm going to just do a little experiment and put it down for 3 days, right? 4 days. So I did that. Guess what popped back up for me? First and foremost, major digestive issues. Like, they had virtually gone away, along with my hot flashes, which never really bothered me that much. Night sweats I've been having since I was in my 20s. I don't know what that's about, but talk to me a little bit, Michelle, about if you had any digestive issues. I think this is probably like the itchy skin, maybe a symptom that women are going through, that they're like, what the heck is going on? And they're going to an allergist or a GI doctor. That cream put an end to my digestive issues. So
what's that all about?
talk about that, if you don't
That's
mind.
a really good question, and unfortunately really complicated.
Before she goes into it, she won't tell you because she's too modest, but she is a doctor of pharmacy. So she's very learned in
We've got a
all
twin
this
sister.
stuff. So
Okay.
there you go.
Excellent.
Yay.
Send me that testosterone every month, sister. We need to talk offline.
But before I answer your question, I want to go back to what Jean and Kim were talking about in terms of the painful intercourse that happens as we enter this phase of life, and the topical estrogen that you insert vaginally can help because of that loss of moisture. And the thing that most people don't realize is there's not really a lot of systemic absorption. So it's very localized in where it acts. So many people, well, women who would normally not want to take any kind of oral estrogen or can use the topical vaginally to relieve symptoms. So I just wanted to say that. And also it helps
same
with
thing with the estrogen patch too. It's local and not systemic.
the patch. No, the patch is
Okay.
absorbed systemically. So it works differently within your body.
Sorry.
Cool.
And then
Thank
just
you.
also the loss of estrogen. The cream can also help with UTI. So I don't know if that's an issue that any of you have noticed as you've kind of entered this phase of life, but there's an increase in UTIs because of that dryness that happens. And again, that vaginal estrogen that you apply and insert can aid with that.
Cool.
But going back to your question about the digestive issues, extremely complicated. Most women in menopause actually experience slowing down of digestion overall, which usually manifests itself as bloating and constipation. So again, I don't know if any of you have noticed that, but it's that estrogen, that loss of estrogen. It's like every other hormone in our body. It's very complex in what it influences in our body. You just don't realize. And that's why if you read the book, you see all of the different symptoms that seem to have absolutely no relationship to each other, except it's that loss of estrogen. So Kristen, for you, when you noticed that your symptoms came back when you stopped your estrogen, that's the reason why it happens. It just, there's mechanistically, it's kind of complicated. You become less sensitive to insulin, so how your body digests and not manifest, but takes in all of its fluids and nutrients. That all changes because of that loss in estrogen. So, you'll have many women with the weight gain, also the bloating. They'll look like they're 6 months pregnant, 9 months pregnant, and it's all
Whoa.
related to that. And then there's the other aspect of just gut health, which is very relevant in menopause, but also just for overall health. That becomes really complicated. I know Jean can tell you also about her experience with just noticing and discovering all of the food intolerances that were also causing a lot of weight gain and bloating, in conjunction with the loss of estrogen. That's why it's a very complex issue, but estrogen does play a role in all of that.
Yeah. I
Thank you,
definitely think
Michelle.
that during menopause, that's the time where we as women have to concentrate on ourselves. We're always the givers, right? We're always the helpers, the people are, giving and taking care of everybody else, whether you're taking care of your parents, kids, your partner, whoever. Um, During menopause, that's the time where you really need to dial in your nutrition. You need to start listening to your body and advocating for yourself. And that's why every time after all the symptoms that we have in here, we would put, what do you want to ask your doctor? Because sometimes we take care of our partner better and being like, okay, make sure you ask the doctor this, this, and this, and that. But then we get in there and we're like, yeah, I guess I
What?
feel okay. We forget.
Yeah.
And I don't know about your doctors, but sometimes it's hard to get in. And so now I've got I bring my little notebook, I
Yep.
write down all my questions, I have it there and I tick them off and, so that you can really start just speaking up. And like I said, taking care of yourself. And now is not the time to, ignore things when they start popping up.
It's great. That's such great
And then
advice.
the other aspect of just overall gut health too, sorry, just to add on to that is, Deb, you mentioned, and also you, Kristen, about your mental health. So a lot of the hormones that are impacting our mental health are produced in our gut. So again, if we've got stuff going on in our gut because of the loss of estrogen, as well as just a bad environment for healthy bacteria, that all has an impact on our mental health.
Mm,
Who
yeah.
knew all
I've
these
always
things?
had issues with my gut too, so that makes
Yeah,
perfect sense.
right.
I'm going to toss
Thank
this
you,
over to
ladies.
Susan Doyle, who has some questions and comments of her own.
Well, firstly, I have to say that I feel like I'm at a high school reunion. I have such this love for the women on here. It's great. It is so great. Firstly, I'd like to say congratulations and kudos to all of you for writing this book because it
Mhm.
had to be written.
Mm.
Right.
Amen.
I was just like Deb. I was so proud of you guys, the conversation, the way the book is written. I love hearing, I've been in fitness and wellness my whole career. So that connection with women telling each other their stories, was like right up my alley. But also like Deb, I'm still just getting increasingly more angry as I learn and talk to people. My experience was a little different. So thank you guys for writing the book. My experience was a little different. I think hindsight being 2020, I was in perimenopause probably for 15, 18 years and had no idea. I just kind of thought my periods got heavy because they were irregular because I exercised a lot, had very low body fat. So I was like, oh, whatever, And then it got to the point where if I had my period, I couldn't stand up in a restaurant for fear that
Oh,
it
Gush.
was going to be
Yeah.
everywhere.
Mhm.
So I had a male doctor. He was throwing, you know, Advil, naproxen, do this, do that. And so, of course, not really enjoying the answers, I started digging myself. Um, thank God he retired, and I went and have a younger female doctor. She's like, you need a hysterectomy. Like, let's get rid of it. I'm like, great. But my biggest fear was, she said, I
Mhm.
just want you to know about a day or two after your surgery, you will be in full blown menopause. Because I was still getting a
Mm.
period at 55 every month, like clockwork.
And let me
wow.
just, the other thing that you suffered from that you hadn't mentioned was severe lower back pain.
severe back pain,
Oh my
which
God.
was from my fibroids,
Severe.
but my male doctor didn't believe me because I would go to him and I'm saying, okay, like my back pain is the exact same time every month, which was when I was ovulating, which was when I was the most swollen.
Mm.
And he's like, I'm literally one of those people that I was like, okay, on and he wouldn't believe me. And so the female doctor's like, well, that makes perfect sense to
Mm.
me.
Yep.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking to myself, I just hit the lottery with this doctor, right? Like she's progressive, she's young. So I ended up having a hysterectomy, but my biggest fear with going to menopause was gaining weight. I'm like,
Mm.
I do not want to look middle-aged, like what you just said, Michelle, right? I
Middle-aged
don't want to look,
squid.
I worked my entire life not to look like that, right? And I'm crazy, I'm nuts. So I had a hysterectomy. She said, slap this patch on about a month before the surgery. I sailed through. I did not have a single symptom, nothing. She gave me the
Mm.
exact right dose I needed. As you know, I didn't need progesterone because I didn't have a uterus. But then a couple years into that, I started waking up with a lot of pain, joint pain and body pain.
Mhm.
And I remember going into her saying, I feel like I am 100 when I wake up every
Mm.
morning. Now, I took my exercise from 3 hours a day to like 45 minutes a day. I was doing everything right. My diet has always been spot on, never a big drinker, always got 8 hours of sleep. And so when I would look things up, and it would go, well, exercise and, drink a lot of water, like all the things that were being suggested, I was already doing since I was 15 years old. So I'm like, what is this? What is this? What is this? And I'm getting to my question. And she was like, well, let's try and up your estrogen, which did not work for me. It made me bloated. It made me retain water, which was, like death to me. So there's this woman in my class one of my classes who Kristen mentioned is a women's wellness, like a functional medicine nurse
Mm.
practitioner. And she said to me, let's do some blood work. Maybe you're anemic because I was tired too. I was really like weary, kind of tired. Maybe you need some B12. She, not a doctor, sent me for a blood panel that was 4 pages long. At 58, not a single doctor had ever taken a blood test. I had never had a blood test. And it came back that my testosterone was in the toilet. Everything else was exactly where it needed to be. She put me on a testosterone cream, and within 2 weeks, I was like, okay, the sun came out again. I felt
Mm.
great. So my question to you, and in your opinion, like, why are more women not pushing for answer? Like, why are they not saying, listen? Because I said this to Debbie, her doctor was very hesitant to give her estrogen. I'm like, if he won't do it to you, then go find another doctor.
Mhm.
Like,
Mm.
why are women not pushing and pushing for answers?
Who's going to answer that
That's
Who,
question?
that's
who,
to you, Rachel.
Michelle,
oh,
why don't you
Michelle.
dive
Okay.
in? Yeah.
Sorry.
I feel your frustration, Sue, because that was me. Actually, I had to go through different doctors till I finally found one. I would go into my appointments armed with articles showing them that I wanted estrogen and this is the reason why I wanted them and how it would benefit me and why they were refusing. I couldn't understand. But I think it really boils down to that simple statement. You don't know what you don't know. And women, unless they really start digging and getting comfortable with the conversation, all they know is that they hear their friends say estrogen helps, but they don't know how to argue that with their doctor.
Mm.
And a lot of them are hesitant to change to another doctor because they've been with their current provider for x number of years.
Mhm.
They've been, insurance obviously plays a role these days also into which doctor you can go to, but it really is up to the individual to become their own advocate. And as I mentioned, I went doctor shopping looking for somebody, different
Mhm.
PCPs, different gynecologists, and nobody would listen to me, even enter into a conversation, just told me why I didn't need anything. Because very much like you, Sue, I'm a pretty healthy eater. I'm an avid exerciser. Everything was great until I really hit a couple of years before I went into menopause, and that's when everything just started crashing. I had very few symptoms. My first symptom was in my early 40s with my cholesterol suddenly skyrocketing, despite a very healthy diet at that time in my life. But the bottom line is that as women, we really need to get comfortable with this conversation and know how to advocate for ourselves. The more you know, the more comfortable you are with that conversation, and then just find somebody who will actually entertain the conversation with you. A functional medicine doctor is just trained differently. So those 4 pages of labs are actually very common when you actually go to a functional medicine practitioner. Their framework is completely different. The types of labs that they run, completely different than what a regular PCP would provide, or even a gynecologist would actually look into. And even within what normal labs would be that they would order, like thyroid hormones, a functional practitioner will not just look at your thyroid hormone levels. They'll look at the antibodies. They'll look at all of these other factors. So it really helps to go to a specialist. If you're looking for one, and specifically with menopause, I do highly recommend that you go to the Menopause Society website. They actually have a find a provider link in there, so you can find one. And that's actually how I finally found somebody locally who could actually entertain the conversation with me and do the labs that I wanted done. And we had that conversation as to why I really was a candidate for hormone replacement therapy.
That's so interesting. And thank you for that answer. When you talked about insurance, I ended up having to pay out of pocket and I didn't care. At that, I was so desperate at that point where I'm like, you know what? I don't care what this costs. I need an answer. And I don't want the same generic answer that somebody else is going to, you need to look at me. This is me. And so it was interesting. It's just been an interesting journey, but I do find myself getting angrier as I go along because I have all these other women who I still teach group exercise, believe it or not. And I have all these other women that are just like, they're telling me these things. And I'm like, you need hormones. Like all these things. I have these women who have osteopenia. I have these women who have, brain fog. I have these women who all the things, and they all like are gaining weight and the bag of tricks doesn't work anymore. And I'm like, go to your doctor and get estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone is huge. And even so I thought like my doctor was a rock star giving me this estrogen patch. And then when I went back to her and said, okay, I went to a functional medicine nurse practitioner, I'm on testosterone. Will you take over the prescription? And she said, no. But a girlfriend of mine goes to the same practice and her doctor will. So I'm like, fine, I'll just switch doctors.
So you got
Anyway.
another question for
Yes,
team,
Kimberly.
Sue?
Yes, ma'am.
Kimberly. We have known each other way before high school.
You guys are a lot alike, I must
Me
say.
and Kim, it's got to be the curly hair and the short.
The fiery
Both have curly
personality.
hair. We're both short and we're both loud.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Your birthday in January?
No, April.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys, you've been wonderful. What do you think in talking to all the women that you talk to compile the information and the stories in the book? What, in your opinion, is the biggest misconception about menopause?
It just comes back to knowledge. I mean, everything comes back to they don't know that there's help out there. But the misconception, I can't think of one
Misconception or,
off the top of my head, that they actually think their doctors could help. Like that doctor. Well, I mean, no, and you know what it is, and it's because the doctors aren't trained. I mean, like that, learning that when women are going to their doctor who they trust and they just say, and they're laying this all out there only to be told, oh yeah, you're just like making that up, is the way they feel when they leave. Gosh, I was just devastating. It's so devastating. I don't know. Michelle, Jean, can you think of any? Yeah.
Yeah. I think, some of the misconceptions I've always felt is like, okay, this is, your life's over, you're on the downward slope. Like, this is just
Oh,
like,
that
you're all
type of
dried up. That's
misconception.
why, like the
Yeah,
common thing is like, you're all dried up. So,
Figuratively and
that's
literally,
true.
you're all
You're
dried
not
up.
old.
yeah, you're scratching here and you're dry down there and your hair's falling out. And
Life's not
like,
over.
like
Yeah,
your beauty is gone. Like, the good days are behind you. You're no longer attractive and
good
everything.
point. Good
That
point.
is such a misconception. This is a time of reinvention. And that's the way in the book we talk about that too. Is like the negative self-talk that we start saying
Mhm.
to ourselves, like, oh, I'm old, I'm fat, I'm dried up, whatever. No, this is a wonderful time of reinvention. This is a time for you to look at your health care and your health needs, make them a priority. Um, knowing that you can go out and you can try something completely new and, you know, date new guys, Kristen, and have, wonderful relationships. And yeah, maybe there might be some challenges there, like for some women that are out there that they're having like dryness down there, but that can just like maybe even open some more opportunities for communication and intimacy and saying like, work with me here. I want to educate you when you date an older woman, like, or a woman of our age, not older, because I think we're still young, a woman of our age, these things kind of happen and you gotta, work with me here, give me some lube, like,
Listen,
or,
I'm here to tell you, we are working with them too.
yeah,
Amen.
Right?
It's not just a
amen.
us problem. And
Yes,
we all
exactly.
know
We all know what that is.
what I'm
Yes,
talking
absolutely.
about.
Yes. So that's what I think is the biggest
I think that's a
misconception, that
great,
this is the
yeah,
end. It's not. It's
Love
just the
it.
beginning. There's still so much. I mean, look at
so
all of us
true.
on here. We're like vibrant women that have so much to offer.
Love
And,
it.
so amen to that.
We're
Yeah,
not our
it's
we're not
amazing.
our mother's 50,
That's
No.
right.
Right.
100%.
we're not
100%.
where they were at these ages. It's yeah, we've
So true.
reinvented it. And
And
that's
I also go in between like anger, and I feel bad for the 30 years of women who just had a white knuckle it
Yeah.
right.
and suffered from all the ancillary conditions that the low ester the no estrogen
Hmm.
perpetuated, and all they did was have drugs thrown at them.
Hmm.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And which is a whole other topic about, what I think about that. But um, I feel bad for them,
Yeah.
I
but
I know we have to wrap this up, but there is one thing that I want to touch on because I know you guys are clearly very healthy and health conscious and, believe in exercise and eating well and all that.
believe in exercise.
I am going to
Debbie
be
hates to
honest.
exercise. Let's just say this.
Debbie,
She
yeah.
hates it. She doesn't sweat. She doesn't like getting huffing and puffing. None of it.
Okay,
None of it.
that's all very true.
No
But
schwitzing.
I will be the first to admit that I am the one that wants to pop a pill and make everything go away. I'm sure there's other women out there. I don't want to do the whole exercise to raise your serotonin thing. I don't want to do, I know it's important and I know, I eat healthy. That's not what this is about, but there are people out there that have the same capacity as I do. And it's just, I want to just take a pill to feel better. And that's SSRIs or estrogen and progesterone. Like, so I don't want to discount. There's got to be other women out there like me. There's God, please let there be other. Let me
There
not
are.
be the only
Yeah.
one
There
who
are.
just wants to take a pill and move on with life. So
Yeah, I think, and that's what it's so individual about, going through menopause, as we all enter it in with different backgrounds, different symptoms that we might have, or even like complications. Like I have Hashimoto's, so I have a autoimmune disease. Like, so when I hit menopause, my Hashimoto's, my autoimmune, my thyroid, like everything just plummeted, and so I had to take medication. Like like you have to take medication, and I don't think you should feel bad about taking medication if you need it. That's what it's there for,
I
right?
agree.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
Michelle, I don't know if you want to comment on that as well.
Well, I mean, the thing that I'll say about the women out there that really don't want to do anything else besides just popping a pill, yes, there's medication that can help with a lot of things that occur to our bodies as we age. But there's some things that there's no medicine to help you, where it's really a case of, use it or lose it. And I think that's really applicable to our joints, to our bones, and that just encouraging you to do whatever you can in terms of movements. I follow this one orthopedic surgeon, and she says, just jump every day 20 times. That'll help your bones, because if you're not jumping 20 times a day, you're your bones just aren't maintaining their strength, because at this point in life, we're not building bones in terms of the strength anymore. We're just kind of maintaining it.
Yeah, that makes
Make
sense.
sure you,
I mean,
make sure you pee before you do those 20 jumps.
She doesn't have the bladder leakage.
Yes, very important.
yes. I love that. And I don't want you guys to think I'm just some sloth that sits on the couch all
No,
day.
you're
I
not.
do.
No, you
Yeah.
live an
do
active life.
walk.
Listen, you walk dogs all the time.
Well, and
so
I
you are
walk,
walking.
exercise, walk, but I'm not in the gym. I am not
You don't have to be in the gym.
doing all the things. But anyways, I know we have to wrap this up because we're coming on an hour. And I'm just going to end this by saying this book is amazing. Again, it's The Girlfriend's Guide to Menopause, What to Expect When You're Expecting Menopause. I highly recommend it to anybody out there who is coming up on menopause, is going through menopause, is past menopause, over menopause, but also feeling like not themselves. So, Jean, Kimberly,
the next book
Michelle,
you girls need to write is The Husband Boyfriend's Guide to Menopause.
Yeah.
So now you need to write a book for the men in the menopausal women's lives.
Very true.
Outline is complete.
So where can people get this book, you guys?
Right on Amazon.
Amazon.
That's where I got
Okay.
mine.
And the other thing I wanted to touch base with is, Kim, you and I had a conversation a while ago, and you had mentioned it, and I want you to talk a little bit about it. Like, do you guys have like pop-up events, or are you going anywhere where people can come see you and talk to you, or?
Not right now. We don't have anything lined up, but Jean and I are kind of transitioning over into, we've opened this dialogue for menopause, and we're trying to also open a dialogue about artificial intelligence, and especially with women of our age, and as they're kind of overcoming some of that change, in menopause. Well, we also need to kind of get more, as we're trying to advocate for ourselves, let's get more educated and use the tools of like AI to assist us. So we're working on a new initiative in that direction.
Awesome. That's
Good for you
wonderful.
guys. You need to start a podcast, a menopause podcast.
You do have to start a podcast.
Yeah.
You're going to be our first guest.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. So shockingly enough, I'm going to plug my book, which is called One Little Pill.
Yeah. Take a pill.
That's what got me in trouble in the
terrible.
first place. So,
No, those were bad pills.
the bad pills.
The bad pills.
It's a story about my journey through addiction from prescription medication and into recovery. And you can also get that on Amazon. And then I'm doing speaking engagements, which you can find out about on my website, deblawlessmiller.com. And Susan Doyle, do you want to wrap us up here?
Yeah, so you can find this podcast. We upload it to YouTube, but listening, we're on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. You can also direct message any of us. We will also link you girls in when we put it on social media. Or you can write an email us, rewind and reflect with us at gmail.com. And more to come on my coaching. So my coaching platform, my coaching program, I've been in fitness forever, but my new program is basically based, really targeted women 50 and over, 45 and older. And it came out of very much like you girls, conversations that I have had for years in the gym, for years when I was personal training, what is going on with me? Why is this happening? And all the things. And then, like you all, I use myself as a guinea pig and I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. And I kind of came up with a 6-week program, kind of a formula that really works. So I just soft launching on social media, but more to come on that.
Awesome. Great.
Excellent.
Thanks, girls.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much for
ladies.
So grateful
everybody.
for your time.
So much.
Thank you so much
Namaste
for
to
having
all.
us.
Yeah.
Of course. We'll have you back for
Namaste.
sure.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.